What's going on, everyone? Talon back here, and today we're going to be talking more about Dragonball FighterZ. So today there was a screenshot released by one of the Bandai Dragon Ball Twitter pages here in Japan or something like that. But anyway, so it's a single shot. It'll be up on the screen right now, and it is of Trunks doing one of his super moves against, I think it's Frieza. I think I see Frieza's tail there. And it is not his Ultra, though. We all know his Ultra is going to be the, the Finish Buster, because he's going to create that Heat Dome or whatever. And then, obviously, it's probably going to create the huge explosion at the atmosphere, just like with Boo and with some other super moves that we have that we've seen from the demo from E3. So we know what that is, but as of a lot of different characters, you're gonna have different super moves. So this guy's is, I think it's from one of the Android movies, if I remember correctly. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen that movie. Any of those Android movies, like randomly, like Android 13 and such, I didn't see. So I think this Android is like a minion of Android 13 or something like that. Either way, it doesn't matter. But that's where the move. So someone pulled up a similar pose of him defeating one of those androids or something like that. Like, you see him, and then all of a sudden the next screen is like explosion or something like that. Or even I think even that movie was in a manga form or something like that. At least here in Japan it was. I'm not sure about if it was released to the rest of the world. Probably, but I'm not really sure. But anyway, but the difference between the screenshot that you see right now from the game and from this movie, essentially, is that he is in Super Saiyan form, but in the movie he is base form, actually. But correct me if I'm wrong, of course. I'm just going off of what some people have been posting. A lot of people like to post, where the game shot is and where it's taken from, essentially. They do the same thing with the manga and the anime and all this different stuff. But anyway, so, and of course, this, believes me to go, okay, so we know that Trunks obviously is going to be in his Super Saiyan form. We've seen that in the little screenshot that we got here in V-Jump, or no, Shonen Jump here in Japan, because it wasn't V-Jump yet. So we saw that in the screenshot for Shonen Jump and obviously in here. So we know he's going to be Super Saiyan. But the question is, okay, what else is Trunks going to bring this? And based on that, and based on an interview that I saw back from E3, I can't believe I actually missed it because I was scouring the internet for those interviews, is how Trunks is going to play, potentially, and based on how Arc System likes to make characters based on their past experience games, and also based on what this Dragon Ball game can do. So first off, he is going to have, he could have a transformation maybe, but if you notice his clothes, he is in the clothes that he gets when we originally meet him, back when Goku was learning the instant transmission, the whole 9 yards, he defeats Frieza and everything. So if anyone's hoping for maybe a future Trunks going Super Saiyan Rage style, I don't, at least with this guy, if they have multiple, I don't think they will, but if they have different versions of Trunks, this one particular will not go, Super Saiyan Rage, or he's not going to be like in the Dragon Ball Super that we see right now or anything. Again, potentially maybe there could be something in the future, but as of right now with this guy, is going to be solely based on what we see from when he defeats Frieza and when he comes back and they're fighting the androids, I believe. It's before he goes into the hyperbolic time chamber. So that's what we're going to see right there with this Trunks, essentially. Now, one thing that was pulled from this interview that I watched on YouTube, I think it was from GameSpot, if I'm not correct. Either GameSpot, IGN, one of those big, guys who could get a lot of time in the interview with the developers and everything like that. Was he asked one question. He said, based on, your history with BlazBlue or BlazBlue, however you want to say it, people always get a little testy about it and everything. So your history with BlazBlue/BlazBlue and Guilty Gear are formed around characters having weapons, whether they're swords, katanas, fans, everything, magic, the whole 9 yards. But in Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT, Super, whatever, we all use our fists and we fire off, ki blasts and everything like that. But he asked, so what? Is there anyone who's going to be, using his weapons or anything like that? And they said no. And then he goes, well, what about Trunks? Because Trunks has a sword. And the guy asked, the woman who is one of the main directors of the game, and he's like, Buki Hoskai Mascot. And she goes, I can't really comment on that. And I was just like, okay, so we know Trunks is going to be in the game, and obviously, he is here. And that was literally like 2 weeks before this magazine was here. But then it leads me to believe, okay, so is Trunks going to have basic attacks where he does use a sword? Because up until he trains in the hyperbolic time chamber, he uses his sword. And even in Super, actually, he uses his sword. You see it, use it quite a bit in the manga for Super, even. He even stabs, spoiler, he stabs Goku black when they split from the Goku Zama's fusion. So he uses his sword actually quite a bit. Even though technically he doesn't use it, it's still really cool to see. So could Trunks potentially use that in this game? I would want to say yes. Maybe it'll be like the end of a combo where you start punching and kicking like normal, and then you'll eventually follow up with maybe a couple slices, or maybe the sword is only used in air combos or something like that. I think that would personally be pretty cool. It all depends though, and this is what I'm going to get into next, is how Trunks plays himself, because what we've seen, and from what you can kind of just, you know, guess from watching videos, or if you're lucky enough to go play the game itself, is that, you know, obviously each character plays different. A lot of people, and a lot of videos that I've watched about people who actually got to try the game, were explaining that people like Cell and Goku were the most well-rounded characters. So if you've played BlazBlue or something like that, I would say he's kind of like a Ragna, I guess, where they're easy to pick up, hard to master, obviously, but they're, you know, pretty well-rounded, essentially, in terms of that. So Cell and Goku seem to be the pretty well-rounded. Then you go into someone like Frieza. Frieza was definitely, and obviously these guys can all fight, throw kicks and punches and everything like that, but Frieza was definitely better at the kind of longer ranges. His super moves, at least, were definitely long range. Destructo Disc, the Death Ball, the whole 9 yards. We saw that. I mean, there's even one where, you know how he kills Krillin, he kind of levitates him up and crushes him, essentially, explodes in little bits. That is in this game. You know, he could pick up your enemy, and obviously your character's not going to disintegrate, but nonetheless, he can smash him right there and do some damage. So, and then that is at a distance, and obviously it's not going to go, it's not across the entire screen or anything like that, but it was a decent distance. It was like that far via screen from what I could see. So Frieza was definitely more of the longer type, you know, long range type guys. Gohan, Super Saiyan 2, and Vegeta were catered towards the, you know, in your face type of guys, you know, really hectic, chaotic punches right up there. So definitely more close combat guys, obviously with Ki Blast and everything, but even with, you know, they didn't have a, you know, like, I always saw Vegeta, especially when he got called in, you know, he had Big Bang Attack, he had just multi-fire, rapid blast, and everything like that. So that's not, you know, obviously that can be used at a long range, but probably what I'm assuming is that that's something you're going to want to, like, get into someone's face, and then randomly just fire that off right then and there, and boom, you're going to deal multiple damage, whereas if you're maybe further back, maybe the projectiles get slower as they go over time, and then it'll give your opponent a chance to guard or do something like that. So that is how Gohan, Super Saiyan 2, and Vegeta were explained, at least from people who played it. Again, I cannot comment on this because I have not been able to try that out. Beta is still under wraps. In that magazine here in Japan, it did not give us any details. It's like, please wait for further instructions. And I was like, oh, you guys were teasing me. And then obviously from what I could see from Boo is that he's obviously a heavier character, but a lot of people actually said that they liked playing as Boo, so that was pretty cool. I'm really want to try him out myself. But anyway, so a lot of people were saying that Boo is definitely more of your heavy character. He's, and it kind of makes sense, obviously. Well, A, he's Fat Boo, but B, he is, you know, he's I wouldn't say slow, but he is slower, I guess, and he's able to deal more damage. You know, he's able to probably take more hits, kind of thing. So that's kind of how he plays, and we've seen that in plenty of any kind of fighting game, especially from Guilty Gear, anyone from Arc System, so Guilty Gear and BlazBlue and everything like that. So we've seen that, and that's how they play. So where's Trunks gonna fall into? He's obviously not a heavy character. He could potentially be a more of kind of a longer range style type fighter, kind of like Frieza. Maybe one of his basic super moves is he can take his sword out and he slashes in the air and they turn into ki somehow, or, you know, he gets air slices or something like that, you know, so it'd be more of a longer range. Obviously, his Heat Dome attack is a very long range. If you get I don't know how you're going to activate it, or if you have to be punching them and then you activate it and he knocks them up, or if you have to time it perfectly, if someone jumps over you and then you fire it up, or maybe it has a bit, because this is from when he defeats Cell as well, the imperfect one when he returns back to the future, is there is a part where he fires it up at Cell, but around him the area actually gets affected. So maybe it's gonna be kind of like a mix between Fat Boo and Frieza, where it is a long range, but he does have that encompass that if he happens to catch you off guard and he's right next to you, maybe the dome around him will send you into the air above him, and then he fires off. So who knows? It could be something like that. With a sword that if he actually does implement the sword in his combos, that can potentially allow for maybe a little bit longer distance than someone, say, like, you know, obviously Super Saiyan 2 Gohan or the Vegeta that they had in there. Maybe around Goku's range, maybe a little farther than Goku's range. Obviously not crazy long or anything like that, but it could be something like that. So I'm not really sure how that Trunks is going to play into that, but it could be pretty cool. So I'm interested to know what you guys think. Do you think Trunks will be kind of in between the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Vegeta and Goku? Do you think he's going to be more of a mix between Frieza and Goku? You know, how do you think he's going to play? Obviously, the more and more characters we're going to get, we're going to start speculating and everything. As of right now, there is no gameplay of Trunks, unfortunately. I was kind of trying to sit this one out, just like wait a little bit longer. I kept checking Twitter and everything. I'm like, all right, you guys released a photo. Are you gonna release gameplay and everything like that? But no. So hopefully they do release gameplay. Then I am definitely going to do a video on that, break it down and everything like that. But let me know your thoughts down below. How do you think Trunks is gonna play? Are you gonna be picking Trunks as your favorite character and all that such, or are you just kind of waiting to see what the whole roster is? You know, or are you just gonna try and play as everybody? Because you have to remember with a game like this is that you're not, you know, usually somebody from Arc System, it's all about mastering a few select characters. You know, you pick your 2 or 3 favorite characters that way if you want to be more diverse, or if you just want to pick your one single character and you master that guy like no tomorrow. But with this game, because it's a 3v3 version, you've got to be able to master at least 3 people, because there are going to be times where there are assists and everything like this. And I can tell this, certain assists are going to work better with certain characters. And now, obviously, I can't say that's going to be the key for every single character. And there's going to be, you know, but there are going to be ways to do that. And that just adds another level of depth to the combat, because I remember, I've always seen this before, and you've probably seen it. I was scrolling through the gameplay that is in the background right now, of where Gohan is, you know, the main fighter, and he does his upper Kamehameha. Or no, sorry. Goku is going to fire off his Kamehameha, and then he calls in Gohan, and Gohan fires it up, and then Vegeta's calling right after that, and he fires off, you know, an attack or something like that. And I think there's another one where Goku's firing off the Kamehameha, then Vegeta and Gohan are calling. Gohan fires it up, Vegeta throws it or something like that. And so, and there's also, like I said, there's another one where Vegeta fires up the Big Bang, Gohan's called in, Goku's called in, and so you have all these attacks going at different ranges, which works really well. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out there when picking your side characters and anything like that. But you're definitely going to want to master around 3 characters at least, because if your main dies and you have to call another person because you know, it's a 3v3 style system here, then you're gonna like, oh wait, I should probably learn how to play this guy. So yeah, it'll definitely be very interesting. So yeah, so anyway guys, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think, how do you think Trunks is gonna play? What type of style do you prefer to play, whether it's this game or any kind of fighting game? Do you prefer to play the long style or the close, or kind of in the medium range, or a mix? Let me know that in the comments below. As always, subscribe if you happen to be new. Leave a like if you liked the video. As always, it always helps the channel out. And until next time, everyone, I'll see you in the next one.